To. For me, it's a place of pilgrimage. A cool mountain breeze whispers through the air, smelling of fresh pine. Endless beauty in every direction. Mittersill, Austria, in the heart of the Alps. For me, this is my place of pilgrimage. It's a place my mind escapes to whenever I'm stressed, whenever I have anxiety. Mittersill is more than just a vacation to me. It's a place where I go back to continually. It's made such an impact that I continue to think about it, to imagine myself there, to let it refine and relax me. As far as vacations go, everyone has a little bit different of an interest of how and where they spend their vacation. But so many of these experiences just get lost in the memory of an endless file cabinet of life. And I've even heard so many people say, I need a vacation from my vacation. What's the point of that? Our lives are filled with endless duties. My coworker said, all I do is work. I need to go on a pilgrimage. I need to grab life by the horns, to get out and smell the roses. On a foggy June morning in 2008, I embarked from the lodge where I was staying in Mittersill, with my eyes intently focused on the top of the mountain. It was misty and cloudy, and it created a feel of awe and excitement. As I began to walk down the trail, my eyes were blown away with the beauty. There was a wildfire of flowers, of oranges and yellows, and a trickling creek babbled and gave off such a glorious melody to the ears. My heartbeat rose as the hill steepened. On occasion, I would pass the occasional mountain cottage. I couldn't help but think I was in some sort of fairy tale. A motor purred in the distance. Around the corner, a truck came and screeched to a halt in front of me. Butterflies filled my stomach as I imagined myself running into some sort of serial murder. To my surprise, out hopped a jolly cattle herder. I chuckled as I saw him wearing one of those funny hats with a feather in the top and lederhosens. It added to the flavor of this fairy tale that I was living. As I continued past him, I heard the jingling of bells. It was like the hills were alive with the sound of music. When I turned the corner, I was met by about a dozen mooing cows with bells attached around their neck. Cling, 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 I heard. And I was so amused by their presence that I went up and pet them, and it didn't bother them a bit. One of these moments was one of my most memorable of my trip as a whole. I personally witnessed two cows staring down at the view of the city, mooing back and forth to each other as if they were having a conversation. It was so memorable that I took a picture, and it's now my cover of my Facebook. I said goodbye to my friends, continued on. The air got colder. Soon enough, I was crunching through the snow. The tension rose as I looked up and saw in the very close distance the pinnacle of the mountain. It was gloriously opening in the fog and the trees. With a last bit of gusto in me, I trudged forward, determined to get to the top. My heart was beating, my legs were burning. I made it. I reveled in my hard work as I gazed down at the beauty that I saw below me. Below me were buildings that were built as early as the 10th century. And all around me was snow-capped peaks for miles to see. I will never forget that day in Mittersill. I long to go back there in person, but for now, I will just have to go back in my mind. So if any of you are needing to refresh your mind and get out and go to a pilgrimage, I encourage you to do that wherever it may be, because you will always be able to go back there in your mind. Mr. Toastmaster.
Appreciate that, Graham. Thank you very much. Know that when President's Day comes around for me, I always think that Daytona isn't too far away. With Daytona coming, one thing about Daytona you may not know is that the track is so steep that they have to govern the engines in order to keep those cars at safe speeds. So just a little fact about Daytona. So let's go ahead and move on to the next speech that we have for the club today. I'm going to introduce you Cheryl McKinster. Cheryl has over 20 years experience in HR, and she's shared some of those stories with us over time. Today she wants to share something a little bit different. She wants to share a story of the ups and downs of raising two teenage boys, 16 and 19. Cheryl's going to offer us the sixth speech from the Competent Communicator Manual. It's vocal variety. It's 5 to 7 minutes, and it is entitled Story from My Heart. Let's go ahead and welcome Cheryl.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, I want to tell you a story from my heart. It's about raising two teenage boys, and it starts out, really, I thought about it recently when I was in the Valentine's area of the cards.
We just wait one moment and start over.
Thank
Is that
you.
okay with
Perfect.
you? Absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, and distinguished guests, I want to share with you a story from my heart. It's about raising two 16-year-old boys. And I thought about this topic when I was in the card shop, like probably many of you were recently, picking out Valentines. And I carefully selected just the right cards. It had to be encouraging, a reflection of my love for my children. And it couldn't be too sappy either, because they're way too cool for that, that's for sure. I almost left the card shop without picking out one for my husband. I'm a little embarrassed to say that, but it shows you how your life changes and how kids, whether you want them to be or not, become the primary relationship in your lives. My story started, and I remember this significant moment when my oldest son was about 3 months old. I'd just given him a bath. He was in his footy PJs. They're so cuddly and warm when they're 3 months. And I was walking towards the kitchen. His chest was on my chest, and our hearts were actually right next to each other. And I felt this electric shock. Honestly, I did. That's the way that I remember it. I remember his heartbeat, and my heart responded to it. And our hearts beat together very strongly, just for a few moments. I've often thought about that moment, how deep the connection is between children and parents. It was as though our hearts recognized each other, and they were saying, "Hello, old friend, we'll always be connected, no matter what." Well, I'm here to say I am not a perfect parent many years forward, and my children are also imperfect. We've had lots of ups and downs, lots of mistakes, and there are stories behind every single one of them. But there's two things that I think I'm pretty good at. And one thing is, and it really helped me when they were little, I was able to read their minds. I still have a little bit of that left in me. It's a little bit more difficult as they age, but I was able to read their minds. And so I knew how they would respond in a particular situation. This helped me to remove them from a situation that was harmful to them or where they might harm someone else. The second thing I think I'm good at, and I continue to work on this all the time, is casual conversations with my kids. You kind of learn early on if you ask your kids as soon as they get off the bus, "Hey, how was school today?" The response you're going to get is, "It was fine," and that's it. You ain't gonna get nothing else. It's the casual conversations, and my kids kind of do provide that opportunity. I can tell when they have something to say, and they kind of float around me or come around, and letting that happen. And letting that be the primary thing that is going on at that moment, whether it's past my bedtime and I really need to go to bed, or I should be doing the dishes, or I should be doing something that is more important. I've often said to my husband, if they want to talk, by God, I am going to listen. That is for sure. And I learned so much in those conversations with them about their lives, their friend lives, and all the things that are going on. And sometimes I can ask some questions, and sometimes I can insert a little bit of advice. My oldest son goes to Appalachian State, and he's in his second year there. He had a wonderful first year, good grades, great professors, classes that stimulated him. It was a great time because he told us many times in high school he didn't like school. He didn't like school, so it was a great relief for us. If you've been aware of the news, you probably know about the crisis that's going on in Appalachian State. There have been 9 student deaths this academic year. And as a mother, watching that situation from here in Charlotte, I'm monitoring the situation all the time. It's very heartbreaking. And you worry and you think about the parents and the families that have lost all these children. It's an unfortunate circumstance that this last fall semester was very difficult for my son as well. He called me really weeks into it, right after he went back to school, right in the beginning of August, and said, Mom, I can't do it. There's no way that I can get all this work done. And I'm preparing you for the F's that I know are going to come. So I listened to him, I talked to him, and of course I worried. We had many, many conversations. And I provided lots of advice, as parents do. And one of the things that I offered to him was, I will never give up on you. And don't you give up on you. As long as you try your best, that's success. And no matter what happens, that's what I'm asking from you. So I did provide him lots of advice. Go talk to your school counselor, go talk to the counseling service, go to all the workplaces, do all the things that you can do. Took advantage of some of them he did not. I will tell you, he dropped some of his classes, and he ended up passing every class that he stayed in. I'm also happy to report that this spring semester seems to be going better. And he's able to tell me, hey, my professors are pretty good. Classes are interesting. And he's also telling me the fun things that he's doing on the weekends. As a parent, I can no longer take my children out of that bad situation when I see it going on around them. But what I can do is I can really listen to them, I can encourage them, and I can teach them how to survive the bad times. Because no doubt they'll have challenges ahead. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Ladies and gentlemen, well, you probably know at this time that to have success today, you need to have control of your lives. But how many times, if you are aware of how many times you have compelling reasons to as to why you have you are not in the you have not the life that you wanted, and well that you have the genetics, maybe the genetics, maybe the my God, what happened? The genetics. Well, in a nutshell, why it's not my fault, right? It can be genetics, it can be the boss, it can be the situation, economic situation, all of kind of things. And you ask why. Well, I have to tell you that compelling reason is really convincing excuse. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, we have the potential to accomplish all our success that we want. Second, and when you are in control of how you respond to the circumstances, you control your outcome. If you choose to believe, that you are not in control, you are limiting your success because you are limiting your beliefs. And now I'm going to tell you three main points to start to having success in your life and to hand firmly the steering wheel of your life. The first one is start realizing if you are driving in the direction that you want in your life. Start asking yourself if you have the life that you always wanted, if you, your wealth, your health, your relationships. If you are not 100% of all of the in one or two, ask yourself why. When you probably realize that there is a gap, and that gap is because the solutions, the problems that you have, the reason is are the choices that you made, and probably the excuses that you set up above of that choices, of that selections. So start now to get rid of that excuses, and you will get more of you will have more success. The second is get rid of the negative negative words of the own your choices. So get rid of I have to, I can, I should. By saying that, you are claiming that you have no control of your decisions. So instead of I have to go to work, say I go to work. Instead of I should do that, say I do that or I will do that. If instead of say I cannot exercise because my physical condition, say I do exercise but appropriate of my physical condition. So by owning the decisions, you take over ownership of your outcome. And by owning them, you have accountability for the outcome, and you realize about the freedom that you have, your freedom. The third one is focus about solutions. Once you accept the problem, you will see that it's product of your choices. Once you realize about that, you will see that the solutions can be also product of your choices. So ask what I'm doing to fit the problems, the situation that I'm right now. And also ask yourself, how can you solve that situation? Make a list of the solutions that you have, and start applying all of them, one or all of them. And the main reason, you have to think that the main reason that we pull back is ourselves. It's usually ourselves. So I'm going to tell you that in any in any challenge that you see, in any challenge that you are affronting, just remember the quote that President of USA, Theodore Roosevelt, said, and do what you can with what you have where you are. Life have setbacks, and like the road has bumps, but hold firm the steering wheel of your life, and following these three main points, these three ways, I assure you that you will improve your lives, have more success, and enjoy as never before your life. So thank you.
Now on the part 2 of our meeting. This is the part where we review and we give constructive criticism towards the speeches. We help all the speakers improve to their different challenges. The first one to evaluate our speech is Susan Greenberg. Susan Greenman is a longtime member here. She's one of our distinguished Toastmasters. For those of you that haven't looked at all the work that goes into that, it's a tremendous amount of work. There is 40 different speeches that you have to give. There is a lot of leadership roles that you have to help with along the way, a lot of work to promote and help the Toastmasters brand that goes along the way. And so I myself am in awe of the amount of work, the dedication, the years of work. She's been a past leadership position. She's held practically every club membership leadership spot here. Susan, please come up forward.
Today I'll be evaluating Graham's speech. It's speech number 4. The objective is how to say it. And Graham's speech was my pilgrimage. Now with how to say it, the objective involves using words to engage the audience. Now this speech could have been boring. I remember a trip I took. I went on the plane, I landed, I climbed up a hill, and I looked down. It was great. But Graham added so much to this to make it come alive. His imagery, his voice, his vocal variety, even his use of arms. He even had some vocal variety in there. I loved the clink, clink, clink of the bell. And then the truck stopped right in the middle. And the man with the feather in his hat. I could just picture all of those things that he saw on his trip to Minnesota. His eyes were focused on the misty clouds, and your arms were just headed towards the sky. There were wild, beautiful wildflowers, and your heart was beating, beating, trying to make it up to the hill. We could just feel that. And then when you get to the top of the hill, you're dragging yourself to make it the last thing. And then, of all things, you look down and you see the 2 cows mooing. So there's just so much in that speech that I don't even really have to look at my notes because I can remember all the pictures that you gave me during the speech, and that's what made it so wonderful. How could it be improved? Probably more of the same. You have a wonderful smile. You came out with self-confidence. The speech was very, very smooth. I guess you could have more vocal variety maybe, and not just at the end, but you could have done a little more with that. You could have had something with some dialogue in there, perhaps, with the man. I'm just thinking about things that you might think about in the future. But otherwise, I really enjoyed it. It was a great speech, and look forward to many more.
All right. Our next evaluator is actually me. I did not as that I've already been introduced. I'm just going to dig right into our second speech. Our second speech was Cheryl's speech from the story from the heart. Now this was speech number 6. This was vocal variety. And there was a lot of positive things that went on in this. So this was a great story. And I could really tell, what I liked about it is you're very conversational. You got up here and you just, we could tell that you cared a lot about your boys. We could tell that you had a well-organized speech and you had prepared for this speech. It was just conversational and confident. And I dig that you can get up here and you can just be in front of us, and it's, I'm certain whether it had been 5 people or 500 people, that you can get up and give a nice, confident, conversational, relaxed speech. You never look like you get thrown a curve, even when the music was clearly an issue at the beginning of the speech. So that was a great job.
Yeah, not easy.
Now, for your challenges, you had to tackle volume. You had to tackle rate, pitch, quality, pauses. And you did a lot of good stuff in there. When, for example, you addressed different parts of your story. Hello, old friend, when you're talking about the heartbeat. There was some changes that you threw into the mix. The sun's coming. Seems to be going good. Classes are going okay. You modified your voice to reflect that you were talking using your son's words, so we could easily follow along in the story where you were. The organization was logical. The words usage was great. There were some vivid words in there. I mean, there was some stuff that drew us in. There was that enhanced the story, specifically when you were talking about all the challenges that ASU is having right now. I did not realize that it was 9 students. That drew me in. So there was a lot of nice, confident things that were done. Now, if I was going to govern something to be Adams, I'd like to have had you thrown in something like just the frustration of teenagers, you know, just, oh, they can drive you nuts, because they can. Any kid can drive you nuts. Teenagers, I cannot imagine. And just take up the pitch, take up the frustration, just reflect the fact that you're talking about teenage boys. Teenage boys, oh my gosh, stinky boy. You know, there's so much you could have done with that. And I would have liked to have seen you do something like that. Just adding a little bit of that extra, just emotion, going from just laid back and conversational to, I cannot believe my challenges. But that aside, you did throw in pauses. And you did throw in a lot of emotion. We could see that it was a very heartful speech. And I really liked how you were just real through the whole conversation, and it just flowed well. And something you told me to watch for, you got it done in the allocated amount of time. So congratulations, great speech. Time member as well, he's a financial planner. Sends out a great monthly newsletter with advice that I probably get 4 or 5 unsolicited financial planner emails. His is the best. So something I look forward to every month. But beyond looking forward to that email, I look forward to his guidance as part of the leadership team, helping us recruit new members and making certain our club is going in the right direction. Peter.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, guest, fellow Toastmasters. Advice on speech number 4, note same speech topic and objective as what Graham was doing today. A lot of things about Graham that I personally like. One is, I've given him advice, and he's taken it, and he's using it. So I have to be very careful how I review his presentation today, because he's doing some of the things I've told him to do. What did he do well today? Your recovery when you stumble was very good. Nobody wants to stumble. You said something offhanded about it, but you recovered very well, and the rest of the speech went very smoothly, I thought. One thing that aided in that was his smile. One thing about Iban, that we notice right away is he acts like he's glad to be here. And that means a ton to the audience, to any audience that you're with. Personal audience, one-on-one, group, etc. The smile, teeth work, use them, and he does. Probably not intentionally, it just seems to be part of his personality. A couple of things that you could, other things that you did well. He followed an outline of the 3 points, 3 sub-points, if you will, spoke about them. That was really the heart of the speech. That should be, in most cases, the heart of the speech as well. Iban faces a unique challenge in this room, and that is he wants to accomplish mastering the English language, which takes about 100 years, in about 2 months. That's his goal. Maybe a little bit exaggerated. So that's why he's here, and he's applying himself. And of course, we all recognize he's not a native English speaker. So he's going to have challenges, and in reality, this speech number 4 is the kind of speech that you can do over and over again. Not the same information, but the things that you will be working on throughout your career here in the United States or any English-speaking country will be exactly what speech number 4 is talking about. Keeping your words simple, avoiding jargon, avoiding unnecessary words, keeping your sentences short and understandable. So this is a speech that you should really underscore everything you do in the U.S. Nonetheless, he often used what I would call challenging or aggressive words. So it wasn't that he avoided those words, he did put them in there. What would I like to see in the future? Where I think you could improve would be a little more storytelling, a la Graham. We tend to hear heart to heart. And when we hear you tell a story, that's what we relate to mostly. So your points could be exactly right on. Give us an example of how that happened in your life. Just 1 or 2 maybe. The other thing you could have done is you used the driving analogy. It was in your title, holding the steering wheel of your life and accomplish your dreams with no excuses. It sounds like Graham's title from a couple weeks ago. My crazy mixed up day, you know, it just goes on and on. Number 1, the title could be about 3 words. Drive better. Simple. Keep working. You're improving, keep at it, you're doing a good job. Look forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Mr. Iban.